Coming at you live from our intergalactic barbershop quartet tour, this is The Final Frontier, a Trek Sphere podcast. Joining me in the studio today, you have our host extraordinaire, the guy who runs the whole thing, Adam Mullen.
Hello.
And then the power behind the throne, the person to blame for this entire fiasco, James Hams.
A lie.
And our special guest, the guy that's the reason everybody's actually tuning in and listening to us today, Ray Tesi.
Good to be here.
Well, Ray, let us begin. What is Stage 9 Studios?
Well, Stage 9 Studios is a full array of the original series sets that had been Star Trek Continues from about 2013 to about 2017 when Vic Mignogna was filming there. Prior to that, it actually started as Farragut Studios, which had a few sets that became, at the time, it was actually called Trek Continues, Inc. And then, I guess about October or November, October last year, I sent just an inquiry to Vic saying, well, now that you've stopped filming at the studio, what are you doing with the sets? And he said, what do you have in mind? And I came up with several suggestions, and one of them struck a chord. And he was actually talking to other people as well. But for whatever reason, he liked the concept that I had, and he invited me to come and see the studio. And we struck a deal, and basically at the very end of December, early January, I purchased the sets. So we renamed them as Stage 9 Studios.
So what made you want to take over the ownership of these sets?
Well, I don't know. That was my original intent. Back again in maybe August or September, I was working with the guys at Starbase Studios, and they've had some of their issues, and they've gone back and forth. And I had tried to go in as just an arbiter and see if I could help them put things back together. And actually, it looked like that was happening. Other people had done that as well. It wasn't just me. And I thought maybe it'd be cool because they only had a couple of sets. They had a bridge, they had a transporter room, part of a sick bay. I said, well, geez, if Vic's not doing anything with the sets, maybe we can get some of his sets and move them into, at that time, it was still in Oklahoma City. And when I wrote and he asked me what I had in mind, the businessman in me said, well, if somebody says that, they're not looking for one answer. So I came up with three. And one of them is one of the ones that I guess he thought was worthy of following up.
So are there any people from Continue still around that help out or are part of the crew or the cast?
Well, the cast is all gone because they have their own lives as well. So, certainly I wasn't looking for them to be a part of it. But many of the people who originally built, even going back to Farragut days, was very excited that the studio was going to remain intact and that we were going to try to reboot it for fans. And so, a number of them have stayed on and have contributed and are a running part of my crew. I don't know that I should call them my crew, but I guess I can. But there's a number of them that stayed on and are very excited about staying on.
So what about Vic? Does he have any involvement in what goes on, or does he just ever come by just to say hi?
Well, he always comes by to say hi. As a matter of fact, as we speak, although I don't think he's there yet, but I think he's en route. And he's always welcome to come and visit. and play if he wants to play or do whatever he wants to do. He actually has some people coming in from California, and I wish I could have been there, but unfortunately I had other commitments. But he's got some people coming in that he wants to show the studio to. And yeah, he's always welcome, and he visits as often as he can.
Very cool. Bill, you have anything?
Not yet.
James?
Um, no.
Well, the one
Um,
thing I
I'm,
have
I'm
every
quite
time.
intrigued about because you've scaled everything back, haven't you? You've lost a portion of what was the original setup, and it's now been manufacturing egg rolls or something. I think I heard you say.
Yeah, originally the studio was in a large. It's still in a large building. In fact, it's retained about 10,000 square feet. Um, when Vic had finished Continues back in February last year, he didn't need all that space, and so he gave it back, if you will, to the building owner. And the person who took it over, yes, will manufacture and distribute egg rolls, so at least we can eat. Um, but what was lost, which for the most part doesn't really affect the sets. A large portion of that was a planet set. So it would have been a nice to have, but wasn't necessary for the operation of the ship, if you will. And there was a kitchen and a makeup room and a dressing room back there, which we've repurposed some space in the remaining area to duplicate that or to recreate something for people who want to come in. And there was a small side portion of engineering. But honestly, you can't even tell that they've sort of put up a wall on that side. Engineering is still very much intact. So while it affected space, it didn't really affect much of the sets.
That's really cool. I mean, I suppose losing the planet set doesn't really mean anything. Just means instead of keeping it all in house, you can go off and shoot on location or whatever. So
Exactly. And we still have a rock, so it's okay.
So what have you got then? I mean, you've got obviously the sick bay, the bridge, corridor, the quarters, and engineering. Do you have like a green screen or anything like that you can do any shoots like that from?
Yeah, so well, there's even more than just that. There's an auxiliary bridge. There's the briefing room. I think you might have mentioned that. We also have the remnants. We're putting it back together of the shuttlecraft interior, and there's a brig. There's a number of other sets as well. Um, and the guys who had been a part of Continues, those guys I talked about who had done construction, actually had an offsite green screen studio. And since I've come on board and we've done some talking, they're moving that studio into stage 9. So the green screen will be internal. So we will have a green screen area as well.
Awesome.
Now, back in the '60s, I know they had on the original show they had to have a room, and they just changed the furniture out to make it a different room to save on their space. Are your sets fixed, or are they modular and modifiable, or do you just hang a different painting on the wall to indicate it's a different set of quarters?
Well, it depends on the room. So the captain's quarters. I guess one of the things I should mention is that we've renamed the ship because I didn't feel that the Enterprise was mine. I'd love it to be mine, but I didn't feel it was mine. Some of the guys who were working there thought I should name it the Republic, but I thought that was a little too self-serving. So we've gone to the Constitution. So what we've managed to do is just redress some of the rooms so it doesn't look like the Enterprise. So that'd be like the captain's quarters, really probably just the sign on the bridge and that's about it. But the auxiliary control room has the ability to be redressed. And in fact, there's a side portion that Vic built and used in different episodes. It became the judges' quarters in one of the episodes. It became Lolani's uh, uh, room in another episode. So it's not static. Many of the flats or the walls can be changed out. So yeah, things can be redressed to look like something else.
That's really cool. So I mean, basically, it gives you a lot of room to chop and change things, and I mean, one thing I was always about Starbase, which I mean, they're to be nice, they were quite limited on everything they had. But with you, it sounds like you could pretty much do an entire episode of chopping and changing, and and making everything look completely different, instead of it just being okay, well, we'll shoot like down the corridor or whatever. It actually sounds like with the sets that you've got, you can actually make it look like a Starbase interior, by just moving a few walls and chopping some things around, or that's what I say. It sounds pretty cool, to be honest. Quite jealous.
Uh, well, I appreciate that. I give a lot of credit to the guys who came before me because I inherited it. And if you look at, some of the episodes of Continues, you'll see that there are sets that weren't really sets. They were just redressed. I mentioned a couple of those, like the judges' quarters, where they were doing the trial. And the remnants of those things are still sitting in the corner somewhere. So they can be used, they can be turned around, they can be switched upside down. We've gotten pretty creative in some ideas. So yeah, things are able to be manipulated pretty easily.
How how hard is it to do the manipulation? Does it take just a couple of hours so you can do the same room for two different scenes in a day, or does it take a whole day? And it's like IKEA furniture. It takes 3 days, six different sizes of Allen wrenches, and a Swedish to English dictionary.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I'm not ashamed to say that I don't quite know yet because I
Okay.
haven't been there. Okay. However, if you think that there's a number of guys that are pretty skilled at just putting flats up. I imagine it probably doesn't take very long, and it's probably, if you know it's coming, right? If you look at a script and you know it's coming, and that's what that room has to be, then it's probably preset even before the cast and the regular crew gets there.
You gotta Captain Kirkham the first time it comes up. All right, we need to get this set changed. Okay, boss, it's gonna take us 4 hours. You have two. We have to have it done in two, or we're doomed.
You want me to be a miracle worker, is what you
Yeah.
want.
I suppose it really helps as well that you've got a lot of the guys, the volunteers from Continues as well, that have stuck around, because it basically means they know what can and cannot be done with the sets, which
Yeah,
means that
I'll actually give you a perfect example. And as you guys know, and hopefully as some of the folks that are listening know, I started, if you will, with Starbase as Starship Republic. And it's taken a little bit of a hiatus because with all of this coming on and some other things that have happened with me, I had to put it on the back burner. And actually, I sort of passed the torch to Jim Van Doltren, who played the captain, and also to Samuel Cockings of Trek Yards, who did the video effects. But be that as it may, there's a whole reboot that those guys have actually put together. And one of those is a brand new starship. I'm not going to say much more than that, except that it's a smaller scout ship. And I was at the studio and I was trying to figure out where we could build another set. And I was just empty on space and I couldn't figure it out. And I went to the gentleman who's really who I've left in charge. His name is Royal Weaver. And I said, "Hey, Royal," I said, "they have this idea." And I showed him a picture. I said, "Do you think it's even doable?" And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, yeah." I said, well, what do you have in mind? He said, well, we'll just go to the bridge. We'll take out the island and the chair and the helm. We'll just move it out because everything moves. And we'll just put flats up around the inside, and you've got yourself a small bridge.
Hmm.
And I said, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm going back. I'm sold. So those guys know what to do and how to do it.
That's really cool, and a lot of less hassle for you as well. It basically means if someone approaches you further down the line and say, okay, I want to come and shoot, I've got this idea, that idea. You've got people around you that could give you a fair idea whether what they've got on in their script is doable with what the sets you've got, which is, I think it does pretty much put you on a par up there with where people are going to come to seek you out to see what they can and cannot do.
Well, I hope so, and that's kind of the goal. I'm just really I took this on for fans. I mean, that's what I am. That's what you guys are. I mean, I wanted people to be able to see it. It would be a shame to have all of that work and, frankly, all of that beauty and not be able to have anybody actually see it.
So I've got a question. Since taking ownership of the sets, have you experienced any backlash?
A little bit. Um, so little that it's hard to even mention. Okay. Star Trek fans are very passionate people. We are. We're very passionate people. And unfortunately, a lot's happened over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years that has really kind of put, the fan community at odds with each other. Not to go into any specifics or particulars. I would have to say, really, by far and away, everybody who's at least contacted me or followed me or whatever has really rallied to say that they're thankful that the sets are going to exist. And right now, I have not made any kind of announcement about opening the sets up, not officially opening the sets up for fan films or opening them up for visits. But everyone has been very, very, very positive. And on the
Mm-hmm.
negative side, yeah, you know what? I learned the lesson, when I did Republic, and that's that thank the people who have paid you a compliment, and if at all possible, ignore the people who are being negative because those people are eventually going to go away.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything PG rated that you want to say to those people that have given you backlash?
Um, yeah, I mean, frankly, I and not to use a Star Trek term, but infinite diversity and infinite whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a place for all of us. Okay, I'm not trying to encroach on anybody's space. I certainly want to be um, beholding to CBS, if you will, because it is their property, and I don't intend to infringe on that. Um, and yeah, I just want to say, to maybe channel Rodney King, can't we all just get along? Um, I think over time things will ease out. I'm a fan, and I want to open this up to fans, and that's it.
So it doesn't sound like you have any regrets from taking ownership of these sets.
Uh, no, I don't. I think it's been a learning process,
Mm-hmm.
both internally and externally, of what I can do and can't do inside and what I should say and not say on the outside.
Yeah.
And I've been very quiet up until this point for several reasons, but I've been very quiet because I want to make sure that I've dotted my I's and crossed my T's, and
Yep.
nobody's going to shoot me with a phaser or beam me out of an airlock or something crazy.
Is there anything you would do differently if you had to do this all over again?
No, no, I wouldn't think about it again. I wouldn't think differently about it
Mm-hmm.
again. I was kind of, as I mentioned earlier, I was very surprised. I mean, I'd met Vic in the past. I'd seen him at some of the conventions. He let me pitch a story, which I knew wasn't going to get through because it was a little bit too uh, intense, if you will. It was like a two-parter. So I knew it wasn't going to happen. And he was fresh off of some other films that he had done. Um, and I wrote him a letter. I wrote him an email, like I said, and I wasn't even expecting to get a reply back, and I got a reply back that afternoon. And we just started writing back and forth, and then we started talking, and we obviously were of the same Star Trek ilk. And one thing led to another. So, do I regret it? No. Would I have done anything different? No. Because look, I own a starship. I mean, there aren't too many people who are going to be able to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, now that you own that starship, any chance you plan on going and making that two-parter you were talking about, doing your intense story? Is that one of the things on your to-do list now?
It is one of the things on the to-do list. We're going through some other changes with it because it was written as four 15-minute parts, which, as anybody who knows the guidelines, you're really not supposed to do. And I made a suggestion on how we could do that and not break the guidelines. So it's going through yet another rewrite, if you will. And Sam's got a lot on his plate, and he just was about to release a Star Trek film that he started in 2013 called Temporal Anomaly,
Mm-hmm.
and he's had some issues with that. But it's all been very amicable, and he's all into making it what it's supposed to be or what it can be. But it's set him back a little bit. So, you know what? One of the things I learned through Republic was, I went and I pitched the idea, and I thought I could have a vignette or any kind of a film out in 3 months. And what I learned is patience is a virtue.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no rush to judgment. All right. There's a lot to be done. There's money involved. There's other people involved. There's a lot behind the scenes. So do we want to do it? Yes. Will we do it? Yes. Is it going to be out next month? No. But nobody's really concerned about that.
I think it's one of those things that as long as you, when you begin the process of um, like advertising, you're going to be doing like X, Y, and Z in regards to like putting this story together. I think the biggest thing, speaking from myself, is just keeping people informed. Don't ever go radio quiet, or don't lie. One thing that
I, well, you know what? Rule number one, tell the truth. If there's nothing good to say, well, sometimes it needs to be said anyway. And I get it. But the time has come to try to put this, out there. And there are some other hurdles. For example, northern Florida or southern Georgia in the summer. That doesn't really fly too well, as I understand it. Neither does South Florida. So we do have. I would have certainly liked to say, hey, we're going to do something in July or August, but it's really not the right way to open this place up. So we've got a longer term plan, and that's okay. I'm going to sit, and I have some time to then uh, clean up some things and get some other stuff ready at the set. And when the time comes, we just hope that everybody wants to rally around us.
I mean, I suppose that kind of like brings on the question that has been on everyone's mind. So I mean, since you took over the sets, I mean, we all know that Vic had a good relationship with CBS and everything like that. I mean, have you had any issues or anything like that? I mean, I know we've spoken about some things, but it's one of the things that I do see people commenting on, saying, "Oh, how can this be allowed?" Or this way, and I know that Vic did say that well, the continued sets have been there since whenever, and they will stand until whenever. But obviously, there's been a lot of oh well, how can they do this, and what's going to happen with this? And I mean, uh, have you had any like backs and forths, and have you got to a position now where you can move forward, or are you still in a very not sure where to go from here stage?
Well, the reality of it is that it took a long time for me. I tried contacting CBS as early December, and it took a long time to get some sort of a reply back. And I knew it was going to take time. And I know. Look, I'm a businessman. I've been a businessman for a long time, so I know what things are capable of doing, if you will, or what people are capable of doing. And I know that, for example, in my pitch to them, I was asking if I could get a tour license so that I could open it up for tours. And I fully knew that there was an existing tour license out there, and it was an exclusive. But you know what? I've learned over the years, if you don't ask, you don't get an answer, right? So no, I wasn't going to get a tour license. I heard back from CBS, and no, they couldn't grant me a tour license. They were very cordial. They were very nice, but no, they couldn't do that. But they did say to me that if I was planning it to open up for fan films, it had to be non-commercial, it had to be not for profit, and it had to follow the guidelines. So that's not an endorsement in any way at all, but it does tell me that there is, some leverage to be able to do something with the studio. And I knew that well before going in. One of the things I said from the very outset when we made the announcement was this was not going to be a for-profit set or a for-profit project. Okay. Um, this is for fans. The only thing I would ask if somebody wants to come in and shoot is to make a donation to keep the lights on. All I want to do is to be able to pay the rent, which I'm doing now anyway, but I want to be able to pay the rent and I want to be able to pay the electricity. After that, it's their production. So whatever expenses they have, it's theirs and it's their business. And I'm happy to just sit back and watch.
Well, I suppose that's pretty much how Starbase has operated for God knows how many years, isn't it? I mean, if a production wants to shoot, they will pay for all the production costs, and then you just make a small donation or whatever to make sure that if there's any wear and tear to the sets or anything like that, that it's covered. I mean, I think that's one thing that a lot of people have been like, oh well, he's in it to make money, and it's just like, well, no, he's not looking to be, another certain individual or that sort of thing. I've known you for about 2 years now, and I know you pretty well to know that you're not in this for fame, fortune, and glory. It's a love of Star Trek for you, which is, I think, one of the main reasons why probably Vic went with you and over anyone else, because you know you've got an idea to keep it moving forward for the fans.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, James. I really do. And to your point, the model that I'm using is the model I learned from Starbase, from those guys, from Scott Johnson and John Hughes and Ken Edwards and all those guys who were involved. And at the end of the shoot, I had to go up to them and I say, well, do you want to get paid for this? But they were just like, yeah, come on in, have fun. They just stood in the background and watched. And some of them participated as, background cast, if you will. But that's where I learned the model is that if you want people, I'm going to even tell you, when I started, I struggled with how much would I charge people to come in, right? What's given the back uh, the dollars that I have to worry about, and they're not terrible, don't get me wrong, but given the dollars, because everybody, it's got to come into play, what would I charge people? And I came up with like 5 or 6 or 7 different scenarios. If you wanted to come for a weekend, if you wanted to come for 5 days, if you wanted to come for 10 days, then could I charge this and make money? Could I charge that and not make money, but, pay my overhead? And then I said, well, wait a minute. If I even put something like that out there, there's going to be 50% of the people who are going to say, I can't afford that. So what good does that do me? Then I have a set that I'm paying for and nobody's using. So rather than that, I said, well, look, Starbase did it this way. So all I'm going to do is say, look, make me a credible offer. Don't tell me you want to give me $1 a day for 10 days, because that's not going to work. But make me a credible, donation, not an offer, but make me a credible donation, just so that it covers some of the expense of the background. And yeah, do what you want. I'm okay with it. And you know what? I'll open it up for free to people. I want, schools to come in. I want, military to come in. I want, the town council in Kingsland, Georgia to come in. I just come on in. I don't care. Doesn't matter.
Now, for many years, fan films just kind of sort of flew under the radar because CBS never even turned the radar on, and they just did their thing and made their films, and things were great for many years. There was sort of just there were no official guidelines, but everybody knew you don't make money off of this, and things went well for over a decade. And then in the last few years, things got crazy, and a handful of films went really big and got big enough that they got attention, and that's kind of what caused CBS started paying attention. Um, are you? I mean, you're taking over for Vic. You're trying to keep his fan work alive with new productions and everything. And you did contact CBS once already to kind of feel them out. Are you planning on trying to grow that relationship to stay on good terms with them, or are you thinking of trying to maybe run things like the old days and just obey their rules but try not to call attention to yourself? Are you concerned at all that if you call attention to yourself, CBS might come down hard on you just to make an example of somebody?
Well, I don't think that's CBS's intention. That's my own personal feeling. Do I want to grow the relationship? I'd love to if the opportunity presents itself. I've already made first contact, if I can throw that out there. Um, and you know what? Uh, I I firmly believe that CBS wants fans to exist, and they want fans to exist. But in all honesty, they have something to protect as well. I get it. They have, Discovery, just as an example. There's supposedly two new films, I guess, through Paramount and CBS in production. Okay. And I get that. And I, in fact, have my own rules that I'll be publishing shortly. I wrote them almost as soon as I took over the sets. And one of those is that you must have a completed script, you must submit it, and it must conform to the CBS guidelines. So if somebody wants to come in and film a 2-hour movie, well, I'd love to do it, man, but it's not going to happen because I'm not getting myself in trouble. Okay, if somebody wants to come in and film a 15-minute or two 15 minutes, and it's family friendly, and it's not using the existing characters, and we have this plot, blah, blah, yeah, great. You know what? CBS is letting people do that, and good for them. And unfortunately, because of some people who overstepped their bounds, you know what? They had to put something in place, and I don't blame them for that at all. And it's always better to have rules because this way, at least you know what you can do and what you can't do, and you know the repercussions if you don't follow them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't mean to like try to imply CBS was a bad guy. I'm definitely on the pro
Oh no,
CBS side of things. It's just, they have to play bad cop sometimes. They can't always play good cop, and if I just sometimes I worry that they may have to be bad cop on the right like your kind of film that's not trying to push limits in order to push limits, but are just you're doing it to try to do it right.
right. Well, I look at it this way, okay? Yeah, it took a long time, but at least somebody got back to me from CBS and said basically, hey, just keep your eye on the ball, okay? And that's all. I just didn't want to go into this thinking that I was going to break a rule or I was going to do something wrong. And I knew they weren't going to endorse me. And that, like I said, that was not an endorsement by any means at all. Okay. But they basically said, sort of like, watch your P's and Q's. And yeah, we're out here. I know they're out there. Everybody knows they're out there. But, they're not. They're not the enemy. They're not the big bad wolf. Okay, I know people would like to think that because nobody knows, you know, everything behind the scenes. People just want to rush to judgment.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about that. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I hope I do what I'm supposed to do the right way, and life goes on.
I'm just a big weenie. I wouldn't even have been brave enough to say, "Hey, CBS, I'm doing this. I want to get along with you guys and not break rules." I'd have been keeping my head down and be like, "Hi, I'm in Alaska in the middle of nowhere. Please don't come after me because you need sled dog. I'm very tiny and very small. I'm hiding in my little hole. Don't come after me.
Well,
I
you
don't
know
have
what?
the
Don't.
stones to. Hey, CBS, I love you guys. Look at me."
Well, let me tell you. I'm not going to tell you that that didn't occur to me. Okay, you can either bury your head in the sand or you can hold your head high. And um, again, not to bring up Republic again, but there you learn a lot as you go through. And if you guys think back, okay, when I was about to do my crowdfunding campaign, I was the first guy out after the guidelines came out to try to do crowdfunding. It didn't work, but I had a lot of people, but no money, and that's okay. But I remember sitting in my office and nobody that I had counted on helping me endorse Republic would do it because they were afraid of CBS because it had all just happened, right?
Yeah.
And I sat there saying, "What am I going to do?" And I said, "Well, you know what? If I'm going to go down in flames, I'm going to hear it from CBS." And so I wrote John Van Sitters. I didn't even think he would read what I had in mind. And again, he did not endorse the project, but he said, basically, we don't see anything wrong with what you're doing. Okay. So again, if you don't ask, you don't know. But it's better to know because if they say, no, you can't do this, then okay, then I have to find, a different path. But you know what? Everybody just wants to be friends, I hope. And that's the way I approached it.
So when can we start seeing fan films being produced at Stage 9?
Well, we actually have a short one that's going to be filming next weekend.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
it's a piece called. It's a short film, but it's called Reality Check, and it's from the old Dreadnought Dominion guys.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Oh,
so
Gary and all that lot.
yeah,
Cool.
Gary Davis and John Sims, a few other folks as well. Um, and I'm telling you, it's not so much the filming, it's the fact that, they've been welcomed back to the studio or the sets, which they hadn't been to in a long time. And it's a lot of fun. And I get to play a small role in it. They wanted me to be in it. And because of my New York accent, even though I try to hide it. Um, but you know what? I'm looking very, very forward to it. So that's the first step. And I've had lots of people ask and lots of people want to know what's involved, and I said in due time. But a lot of people want to do it, but the first one is happening next weekend.
And that's May 19th or so. This episode's going to come out on the 23rd. So by the time people listen to this, next week will have been last week.
That's true. So we just finished it. It's great.
There we go.
It's a time travel story.
This is a
You're
time
at
travel.
MegaCon, aren't you? The day after this comes out, you're taking some bits and bobs to MegaCon.
Yep, that's true. um, Sort of an interesting story there. I had no intention of displaying anything at MegaCon, or not that I had no intention, it just never occurred to me. And I had written several, or I put out several inquiries to three of the area conventions two in Florida and one in Atlanta, or the Atlanta area. And I was just trying to get a table so that I could, promote Stage Nine. And I heard back from one of the fellows at MegaCon, and he said, "Yeah, because I'm not a vendor, I'm not an artist, right? So you have to ask for permission there because there isn't really a category." And somebody wrote back and said, "Yeah, we could set up a table for you." And he said, "So do you have anything in mind for like photo ops?" And I was sitting in my living room, and I said, "Photo ops? What a great idea!" And I talked to the guys at the studio, or the guys back in Kingsland, and I said, "What could we do?" I didn't even think about the bridge because it's you could say anything you want, but it's Vic's chair, and I am not doing anything with Vic's chair. Um, and they had the old shuttlecraft set. And I said, okay. So I made a pitch, and it's an interior, but we thought we had a good idea on how to set it up. And the guy said, that's great. And we set the whole thing up. And then I spoke to Vic, and he said, well, I did the bridge at SuperCon like last year or 2 years ago. And he said, that went over really well. Why don't you do something like that? I said, well, I'm not taking your chair. He said, well, if you can find another chair, then, why don't you think about doing that? And I scoured the countryside, and I found another chair just to borrow. And they happened to be just north of me in Florida. So they're going to bring their chair, and we're going to bring the island, and we're going to bring the helm. And I duplicated the backdrop that they had made of the back of the bridge, which I think is beautiful. And we're going to set that up. And frankly, just in the same spirit of Stage Nine, I'm not going to charge for photo ops. I'm not going to. We're going to have a free raffle that we're going to do, and all you got to do is follow us on Instagram, and tag a couple of friends, and enter the raffle, and we'll pick your name out of. I guess it's no longer a hat, but we'll pick your name out of something. So what we're going to do, we're bringing it there. We're doing it for free, if you will, because we want to get awareness about Stage Nine. We want people to know that they could go there for fan films. We are going to announce that we're going to do an open house event in October. And again, no charge. Come on in, walk around. And it's just going to be open for people to walk around. Take your selfie, sit in the chair, take a picture of yourself. It's okay. It's cool.
Did they assign you a booth number or something that you might want to shout out here so that people will know where to go to find you? Or
I don't have a booth number yet, but they did say, if I said, and you guys are going to forgive me because I'm going to put my glasses on, which I hate to do. I hate to do that, but I'll do it.
who are you? Where's Ray? Ray disappeared.
We are in the community area of the Orange County Convention Center, and I was told if you say that, they are going to find you.
Okay.
Although by the time this comes out, people will know exactly where we are.
Oh.
And I can't tell you the thousands of people we've had through already.
You've said that, a lot of this is going to be free or donation based, and I think that's, a big thing that certain people were most concerned about, that you're going to start trying to compete with someone else, and and that sort of thing. And I've known from day one that was never your intention. You were hoping to maybe get a license and that sort of thing, but I knew pretty much that it was a long shot. But you're not in it to compete with anyone, and I think that's one of the most important things that people need to understand. That you're not trying to step on licensees' toes. You're not trying to pee off CBS and the powers that be. You're pretty much just trying to continue using the sets for what they were established for, fan films and that sort of thing. And I think, as long as you don't make any money or anything like that, I don't think anyone really should have an issue with what you're trying to do. I just think it's, something new, and it's change, and people don't really like change very much. I've noticed that.
Well, that's true. And I guess we're going to find out, James, if that's true on May 24th after this comes out. But I did it again. And frankly, even in the discussions I had with Vic, both of us agreed that we just want to let fans come in and see this. There are not too many places like this, and just to talk about the one in Ticonderoga and the set tour. I mean, they just had a ton of people go through there with William Shatner
Mm-hmm.
as a guest, and good for them. Honest to God, good for them. I've been there, and it's beautiful. Okay, it's beautiful, and there's no getting around it. And there's nothing to say other than that. Okay, but that's not my goal. I don't have. I'm not in the position to open up a museum. I don't want to. I understand my bounds, and I just want to work within my bounds, and that's all. And I'm just hoping that people understand where I'm coming from and just want to come in and look and go, wow, I feel like I'm a kid again, because that's exactly how I felt when I walked in.
I
When
mean, I think
you,
it's good as well that. Sorry, go on.
no, I was going to say, when you went up there and you saw it, was there any? I mean, you said it was a great set, and I'm planning on going there sometime myself to check it out. Did you see anything that you looked at and said, "I want something like that on my bridge"? Or did you get a chance to talk to any of the people behind it to maybe get some? Because I know you said you're constantly looking at making improvements and doing things up. Did you get a chance to pick any brains up there and get some tips and tricks that might be useful, or was it?
You mean in Ticonderoga?
Yeah.
No, no, because I've got what I've got. I need to stay within my bounds, and don't get me wrong. Everything costs money.
Right.
Everything costs money, and let's get the doors open. There's some props that have been used in some of the episodes that we're going to set up around the area when people walk through. They don't need to be there out in the open while you're filming or while the set is just being cleaned or whatever. Uh, you know, uh, what more would I need? And I don't mean it facetiously, but what more would I need? Would I need, the area that Kirk was put into in Space Seed so that they could suck the air out of him? What would I do with it?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think I'd do anything with it. You know, so no, I'm not looking at that at all. If people want to, make certain props that we could put out on display, great, that's fine. But no, I'm very content. I never thought if somebody would have told 12-year-old Ray Tesi while he was watching, Star Trek in 1966 that one day he'd own the Enterprise, then I would have said, "You're out of your freaking mind." And you know what? I'm happy to just be where I am, and that's it.
So you talked about people besides like Trek fans coming in and filming. Can someone come in and film a non-Trek related film?
I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't. Obviously, it would need a lot of redress.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not saying that you have to be a Star Trek fan. I think that would, there are. I'm not going to say there are so few sets because I don't know that to really be the case, and I'm sure that's not the case. But if people live in the area and want to and need a place where because they have an idea and they want to film something and they can do it in green screen or they can redress or whatever, then yeah, sure. If you want to come on in and pitch an idea, then I'm all for it. Walk through the studio, see if it's going to fit whatever your needs are.
Hmm.
Uh, and if it does, let's talk and see what's involved.
So if someone wanted to write a script, a Trek script, and send it to you, would you be willing to make it on your own? Like, what am I trying to say? Basically, like they're submitting a script to you. Do you do that, or have you
Uh,
thought about that?
it's actually not my intention.
Okay.
And because I've been through it once, I know what's involved, and I know what the costs are. and I'm not going to say to somebody, I need, $30,000 from you in order to make this for you. That's not my intent.
Mm-hmm.
My intent is, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to let you have fun. I'm going to let you do what you want to do. It's your baby. And that's all there is to it. If somebody has a script and would like to submit it in a way, and I hadn't even thought about this, Adam, to be honest with you, but if somebody wanted to submit it and I read it and said, okay, it meets all of the guidelines, it's a good story, blah, 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 then maybe there's a way to pitch that to somebody else to produce it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not going to be me.
Okay.
Now I know you said you're not in this to make money. You're not. You're just trying to keep things going smoothly, bare minimum, all that. And right now, because of everything that's gone down, a lot of people are a little gun shy about getting into doing fan films. But there's still enough of you guys making fan films and keeping it going that I think eventually it's going to turn around and become a more popular thing to do, and there will be a lot more interest in doing it. Now, if somebody comes along and says, "Hey, I want to make this little fan film," and you said it's like $500 for the day or $100 for the day, whatever the price is, and they say that's very fair and reasonable. I'm going to give you 5 grand so that other people can make films for free. Would you turn them down out of concern that it might look like you're trying to make money, or if somebody wants to overpay you so that the guy that doesn't have enough money but wants to make a fan film can come in and do it, would you take it and just use that to help keep things going?
Well, I just want to address one thing you said, right? So I'm not going to tell them that it's $500 a day or $100 a day. Okay. Because frankly, I know guys who can't afford more than, they'll film for 5 days and want to give me a few $100 or
Yeah,
five
sorry,
hundred bucks.
I was just
No,
random
and I
numbering it.
get
I
it.
didn't
I
mean
get it.
to.
But no, I get it. But that's not where I'm coming from. So, having said that, and that leads to the answer to your question. Having said that, if I said, okay, you want to come in for 10 days, I'm looking for a donation, what would you give me? I can only hope that somebody would want to say, I'll give you 5 grand for 10 days. And then at that point, I'll say, you know what? If I feel good about it, okay. If I feel that that's not the right way to go, I'll be honest. I don't think there's anybody who's going to do that, but it's okay, you know. But that wasn't the goal, and it's still not the goal. But look, if somebody says, but you're going to get this, what am I going to say?
Because
No,
I'm
you
just.
can't film it because you want to pay me too much money.
Yeah,
Um,
I've bought a lot of lottery tickets, and if one of them hits, I'd want to, like, share the
Cash in
wealth
on it.
and give money
Yeah.
to operations like yours to help keep things going for a while. But I didn't want to. I don't have any money to give, so I shouldn't be too. I don't
Well,
want to. I if somebody does, if some rich dude does want to just throw his money around,
so
I
here's
wouldn't want it to worry you
here's
that.
my answer to that. Here's my answer to that. And my honest feeling is the following, right? If somebody would give me, and this is not facetious at all, if somebody wanted to give me more money than I needed, right? Whatever it is, and I was able to do something with that extra money, I paid my bills for the month, I got money left over. What would I do with it? The answer is I would really want to give that to some charitable organization. I'm not going to say I don't need it. Everybody needs money. Okay. I didn't go into this. I was able to do what I did with money that I had handy, right? It wasn't exorbitant and it made sense to me. And I said, okay, it's certainly within my means. I'm going to do it. I wasn't even thinking about sort of the repercussions, afterwards. But with Republic, I did that with, a children's organization. And I made a donation, albeit it was very small, unfortunately, because it just didn't pan out. But that's my goal, and I really would not want to keep that money. It's not that I have no use for it. Maybe I'd like to give some of the money to the guys who have been working at the studio, and say, here, for your efforts, here's a little bit of money. But I wouldn't want to keep that money, and I'm being perfectly honest, and I would donate that money someplace that can organize. I would even say, look, I'll take the extra money and will go to a children's hospital and bring those kids in. Let them come in. Let them walk through a studio. I'm not. I'm not in it for the money. So if somebody said, "Yeah, that's great," and I said, "Well, listen, I could pay 2 months worth of rent with this, and have money left over. Let's do something with it."
Okay, so you're not okay. I just
And it's fair. It's a very fair question. It's a
one of these
very fair.
days, by God, I'm gonna be rich and I'm gonna be throwing money around to fan films. That's all there is to it.
Well, let me give you my home number.
Okay.
I think the most important thing is whatever donation you get or whatever someone gives you to come and film, as long as you keep a record of it. Because I mean, I've heard of stories of other places and stuff like that where they've been given donations and then it's just like, oh, okay, no you didn't, yes you did, no you didn't, yes you did. I think it's a case of, as long as everything's recorded and you can say, like, down the line in 2 years time or something, CBS comes and says to you, oh, okay, yeah, well, we've had reports that you're making money from X, Y, and Z. As long as you could prove that that whatever donations you've got have been accounted for, and that sort of. I honestly, if someone was to say, here's 5 grand, if you could, like, show where that 5 grand went and none of it went in your pocket, I don't think there'd be any issues with it. I mean, I think the biggest thing with, like, if someone was to give you like 5 grand or whatever, I think the biggest questions people would ask is, did you use it like a certain production did way back when? If that makes sense without mentioning any names.
Well, yeah, it makes perfect sense. And again, I've been a business person for a long time, longer than I care to tell you, longer than I even care to think about. But I've been in business a long time. Not my business, but in business. And I can't tell you how many audits, I've had to sit through. And I know the repercussions if, you can't produce what needs to be done. And the repercussions don't have to be, financial, and the repercussions don't have to be, people coming down on you, but just to gather that information. If you don't have it handy, if you're not keeping track of it, then you're in a load of, what, you know? Um, so I get it. Plus, and not to bring it up again, but I've been through a sort of a studio meltdown. And most of that was because that nothing was in writing. And it's all got to be in writing. It's all got to be documented. It's all got to be filed, and it all has to be tracked. And you can't run a business like that. And I guess maybe that's it. Even though I say, look, I'm not here to make money. I want to keep the lights on. I want fans to come in and see it. I love people to come here and film in it. Okay. The bottom line is it's got to be run like a business, because if it's not run like a business, it's not going to run.
That's a similar attitude I have to my website. Everyone knows that I do everything I can, for next to nothing or whatever. But I have to try and find a way to offset some costs and stuff like that. And the way, luckily, that I can do it is I can sell official merchandise. So, because a lot of people say to me, oh, well, how do you do it? You haven't got your own store, and, you can't do this, you can't do it. It's like, but no, I can. I've signed up for, like, the affiliate status for CBS All Access. I can sell official merchandise from the Star Trek shop, that sort of thing. And I'm quite lucky I can do it that way. And I think it's just a case of, yeah, you have to be able to say, well, this month I got X, Y, and Z, and just to cover your own back more than anything. Even if it's not a business and you're not, because I mean, I don't make anywhere near enough to cover the costs of what it costs to run the website, but it's more along the lines of, I kind of have to run it that way, even though it's not a business, just to make sure that I've got everything I need behind the scenes to cover my own arse, should I be asked for it.
Exactly. Exactly. I've had people, I was talking to a few people, involved in the studio, and friends of mine who helped me figure out whether or not this was, the right methodology. And people have come up with some very good suggestions, but it's, well, you could make, like, stage 9 t-shirts and sell those. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing anything that could, be perceived as trying to turn a profit. I'm not doing it.
Now,
Not,
if I remember correctly, when you said a thing about the children's hospital, I thought of this. Vic Mignonia had 501c3 set up for
Yep,
his. Now,
exactly.
now, are you continuing that, or is that still Vic's thing, and it's not part of what you're doing? Were you thinking of doing that, or because I know you did say you'll give the extra to charity because you're not trying to make money off of
Right,
this, so you're going to see it does
right,
good. Were you
right.
thinking of doing that, or do you like did that 501 status come over with the assets that you got from Vic?
No, that's associated with Vic's production company.
Okay.
Um, I talked about it, and it's a very difficult process
Yeah. Oh,
to
yeah.
get approved for
It's
that. Yeah,
crazy insane. I get
and
that.
you know what? I don't think I need it at the moment. Remember, Vic he ran some very heavy duty crowdfunding campaigns. He put in a lot of his own money, but he ran some crowdfunding campaigns. And you know what? In that particular case, if you have to protect your ass, yeah, you have to protect your ass. And I think he did it the right way. So, yeah, while I appreciate what he did, I don't know that I'm going to need to do that. If at some point I do, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. But right now, nobody has said, based on my approach, that is something that I would need to do.
Do we have anything else, or shall we move on to the lightning round?
Oh, I'm afraid of a lightning round.
This one's not going to be too hard, I don't think.
Okay.
Uh, it's your standard lightning round. I'll just ask them real quick, and you just fire off whatever pops into your head. I'll start
Well,
off with.
you don't want to be in my head, so that's a whole other story.
We'll start off with an easy one since you are making TOS fan films. Who's your favorite captain, Kirk or Picard?
You have to ask Kirk.
All right. Now, just to go random all over the place, do you guys have costumes on set, or do people need to bring their own when they film?
I have several costumes left over from Republic, but it's probably better if they bring costumes that fit the people.
All right. Ray, if someone asks you if you're a god, what do you say?
I say yes.
All right. And when you see Vic next, can you ask him when he's going to do another episode of that Futurama fan film? Because I want to see more Zap Brannigan.
If it's in my head when I see him, I'll tell him.
Okay. And that's the. Nope, two more for the lightning round. Of all the fan films you've made, which one was your favorite?
Well, I've only made Republic, and it still sits up there as my favorite.
Of all the fan films you've watched that other people have made, which one's your favorite?
It's actually now you haven't stumped me, but I have to think for a second. It's a phase two. It was the George Takei episode
Mhm.
Okay.
is my favorite.
And I can't believe you. I swear to God, I keep thinking you're involved with so many productions. It's like, really? Republic's your only one?
That was it.
I swear, it's like I keep seeing you like everywhere.
I don't know how.
Maybe I'm just going nuts. It's just
I don't know. People, if that's the case, people owe me money.
no. It's one of those. It's like I'm new to studying fan films, but I keep hearing your name, and it's like maybe you've just inspired people all over the place. I don't know, but
He
Well, if
just
that's
said
the
he was
case,
God.
if that's the case, I wish you'd talk to my wife.
you're connected. You're a made man in the Trek film
I
community.
am. I am connected.
All right.
Uh,
All right, so that
Well,
was the lightning round. That's our show for today, folks. Big thanks to our boss for keeping an eye on us and keeping us out of trouble because apparently he doesn't want us unsupervised. Thank you,
Yeah,
James, for showing up. Thank
that's all right. It's only taken what, apart from the one that I did with Adam, 18 episodes.
yeah.
yeah,
And thank you, Adam, for keeping this thing going.
of
And
course.
and especially thank you, Ray, for keeping fan films alive and keeping the dream going.
well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to let me hack my wares.
Well, thank you
Absolutely.
for being on. We appreciate it.
Thanks. And you guys have been around with me for a long time, so I appreciate that as well.
You're welcome. It's always good to have people that show that they actually are enthusiastic for something instead of, not. Too very diplomatic with the way I word things.
All right, so like and follow us on Facebook. Keep an eye on Studio 9. We'll try to include a link with this episode.
Stage 9.
Stage 9. I'm sorry. Did I say stage? I said Studio
You
9.
said Studio 9.
Stage 9. Keep an eye for Stage 9 and wish Ray the best of luck in all his future endeavors. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube and the iTunes Store and Google Play. This has been The Final Frontier, the galaxy's last best hope for peace.